Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It's myself, George, joined once more by Tate for our final review of Oscar season, at least a public review. This is, of course, Drive My Car, the film that came out last year. We missed it at the film festival as well. We've had a few like that, but it was a very busy 10 days, and it's going to be the final review as we sort of approach this Oscar season. And while we get over the antics, I'm actually just going to jump in straight away. Tate, how are we tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm glad I've got through all the Oscar films this year. I did look at the schedule and think, wow, how on earth am I going to get through these? And I managed to get a little bit of time off and managed to watch Flea and then this film, which has to be the most depressing double bill of all time. But I managed to get through it. But we want to hear your thoughts today. We've already got some thoughts going in the comments about Drive My Car. But please make sure to leave your comment, like the video, share this video, and of course, subscribe to the channel. And we have loads of other stuff coming up. We have our Oscar live stream, our Oscar watch along coming up. We'll have the timings going up for that soon. You need to go onto all of our social medias to find out those timings and stuff like that. It's going to be between the Sunday 27th and Monday 20th of March, depending on where you are. And if you go onto all the social medias, which are scrolling along the bottom right now, so that's Twitter at Cinema Savvy, Facebook at Cinema Savvy, and also letterboxd.com/Cinema Savvy. You'll find out all of our schedules and stuff like that that we'll be posting up as we begin to hype up our Oscar live stream, and also other videos that are going to be coming out in the future. Also, if you want to go into the link in the description and find our TeePublic link to find comfy hoodies and comfy t-shirts.
Absolutely. Everybody, please do. I said this Sunday's the big day. We always, it's the sixth or seventh year of doing the Oscars Sunday now.
Sixth year, I want to say, like, maybe seventh. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's been a while, and it's quite scary to think how many it's actually been. I was thinking about Dunkirk the other day, and I was like, hold on, that was like 4 years ago now, and it still feels like yesterday. And we have a comment from Dave already. God say it's my least favorite movie in all the nominees. Well, obviously, we're going to be giving our thoughts on this film. We're also, at the end, going to have a very, very quick conversation about what we think could win Best Film, what will win Best Film. We're going to obviously save a lot of that for the live stream on Sunday. We'll probably talk about each of the films in a little bit more detail. But sort of kicking off with this one, Tim, I'm going to head over to you. Sort of, not when did you first hear about this film, but sort of before you watched this film, sort of what did you know about it? What had you seen online and its sort of reputation at that point?
So I had absolutely zero kind of momentum going into this film. So was it there at the London Film Festival? I'm pretty sure I saw, like, it was up there as one of the films, stuff like that. And I didn't really have much interest in going to see it, sadly. I heard more about Worst Person in the World, which was the other foreign language film that was being put forward over this film. So I didn't really hear much hype about it until suddenly it was nominated for Best Picture. And I was like, wait, what? Drive My Car? I've never heard of that film. Like, which film's that again? And I went in and I had a look, and it was like foreign language film about grief and stuff like that. I was like, oh, wow, okay. And then I looked at the runtime. I was like, oh, wow, okay. So it's a long drama. It's 3 hours long. Okay. That's why it's managed to get in there and stuff like that. And I saw that some people have been putting up some very good reviews about it and stuff like that. So there wasn't much hype leading into it at all, really. It was kind of a surprise of it's been nominated for Best Picture. Oh, okay, I guess I'll have to watch it now, kind of job. So yeah, how about you? Did you have any kind of hype going into it at all, or anything kind of?
There was someone at the festival who I was following was doing really good reviews. It's the good thing that in a film festival you meet so many new people, but also you see a lot more coverage online. So there's a load of films I didn't get to see, and I don't know much about Drive My Car, but someone that I'd been enjoying the reviews and put Drive My Car as my film of the festival, and I was like, oh, like, okay, I've not heard much about this one, and then that was what, October now, 5 months ago. Can you believe it? In another 5 months, it'll almost be the festival. And I was like, okay, Drive My Car, same as you, Worst Person in the World. A lot of people are hyping that one up. Technically, it comes out this Friday in the UK, which is even more insane. And then obviously this was picking up traction. I was seeing this red car more and more amongst my social media pages. More and more people saying it's this masterclass, masterpiece, all this stuff, and there's getting to, I think it picked up a couple of awards at some of these. I don't know, like the New York Film Festival. It picked up a few things elsewhere, and when it got to Oscar nominations, Drive My Car suddenly had a lot of. I don't want to say momentum. I mean, it did, but I think at that point it become like this is like it will be a shock if it doesn't get a Best Film nominee. That's sort of the approach I had to it, and I couldn't. There's one cinema near me that showed it. They showed it for 2 screenings total. One was a Tuesday at 2:30 in the afternoon. The other was a Wednesday morning.
Wow.
And how on earth, I'm not going to sit here and just do this tirade against chains for not showing foreign films. I know that is a big problem they have, but it doesn't if this indie cinema showed it twice and thought, oh, no one's here. Well, maybe because you put on at 2 in the afternoon on a weekday. So that's my little minor rant aside. So I would have liked to have seen it at the cinema at the same time. The same as you take 2 hours 59 minutes. Like that was a worry. And obviously this should have been on the channel a few weeks ago. We had Drive to Survive cropped up. Batman's Oscar seasons have been a bit wild this year. We've had 2 or 3 reviews than we wanted, but the main 10 are done. And I watched this last night, so I had a fantastic weekend, sport wise, everything else wise. And it got to sort of 8:30, and I was like, I've got to watch Drive My Car still. And I was like, I know it's 3 hours. And when you just put something on for so long, and it's nothing against the film itself, I just get a bit daunted by long run times nowadays. Ironically, I struggle with long run times at home compared to in the cinema. And that's the big thing for me now is I prefer the cinema environment. And I did this all in one sitting, which was my biggest achievement. I did watch a scene and think this is it now when it said there was 40 minutes left, which didn't help at all. And that was obviously the car scene. But like hype heading into this, like I was kind of intrigued more than excited. And obviously, it won, of course, it won Best International Film. Yeah, it won some stuff at Cannes. I don't know if it won Palme d'Or, it was up for it, but it won something at BAFTA. It might have been obviously foreign film. Did it win adapted screenplay? I can't remember. Maybe it was just international film. But yeah, watching it, I was no weird. Like, so my immediate reactions afterwards is not that I didn't care for it, but it was very late, and I was like, I think I need to sleep on it because I didn't dislike what I watched. And obviously, it's a film about grief. It's not going to be entertaining. It's not going to be, Marvel or anything like that. It shouldn't be. I was like, this is a very deep film with a lot of inner meaning and external meaning. And I just wanted to sleep on it. And I woke up this morning with just the mindset that, and I sat me up today. I've seen a very, very, very good film. Did I enjoy it? That's a completely different conversation, saying Power of the Dog, but I know I've watched something extraordinary. And obviously, I feel that when you get a film like this, everyone's going to interpret this differently, dependent on your life, what you've been through, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a lot that sort of resonated with me to a point, but also at the same time, when I approach these films with the Oscar mindset rather than neutrality, I'm going in like, should this be up for best film? Should this be up for that? And sometimes it can be detrimental watching some of these films during Oscar season because you've got to just, watch this in October at the Blue, not having any hype. I'd have thought, poor. This is extraordinary, but now I'm just like it was like homework, which it shouldn't have been because I actually quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on a similar page because I didn't get through it in one sitting. I'll be honest, it took me 2 sittings to actually get through it. It's a very, very heavy subject film. It's a lot of information to take in, and I don't want to kind of use it as an excuse, but it's also a bit more difficult when it's in a foreign language as well because you're having to focus so hard on the subtitles, kind of at the bottom of the screen and stuff like that. That you sometimes lose kind of focus of what's actually happening in the story and stuff like that. So I do want to say that sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to kind of do stuff like that. Surprisingly, I didn't have that problem when watching a film like Parasite or watching a film like Another Round or watching some of the other foreign language films that have done really, really well in the past few years. But with this film, I did kind of find almost distracted by kind of the intricate, very, very deep dialogue and the very, very kind of like almost painstakingly chosen words that go into the screenplay. This is up for best kind of screenplay, isn't it? Best original.
Yeah, adapted screenplay. Yeah.
Adapted screenplay, sorry. And you can tell like how hard they've kind of like gone in on the screenplay because it is such a heavy kind of monologue followed by monologue kind of film. And because of that, and because of how long it is, and because of its nature of how it's filmed, and it's a very kind of slowly paced film, it's a slow burn. It's not there to kind of like burn out too fast and have like big kind of sequences and stuff like that. It's very slow. It's very methodical. And for me, especially with kind of a film that I'm looking for some form of entertainment or at least something kind of I can grasp onto and stuff like that, I feel like it could alienate a lot of audiences, especially if they're getting into the Oscars. There's a lot more entertaining Oscar films from this year, especially even with a film like you mentioned, Power of the Dog, which is also very dialogue heavy. but you can get invested heavily into the characters and you can get really kind of into the situation and into stuff. Whereas this film, it's all about the kind of quiet interior moments. It's all about the kind of subtlety of the scene. And for film lovers like us, we kind of adore this kind of stuff. But I can understand why some people haven't enjoyed it as much. And I can understand even why some film lovers have thought this is almost too much. It's too kind of heavy with its kind of subject matter and too slow with the way that it delivers it. So in my mind, it's stuck in a kind of limbo. I thought the film was fantastically well put together, but I didn't particularly enjoy it. Yeah. And that's very difficult with Oscar films when you're placed into that kind of situation.
Yeah, because it depends how they go for it. I mean, let's talk the director really quickly. Apologies if I butchered this, but I believe it's Ryosuke Hamaguchi. Not done like Gucci, but maybe it is, and I'm just losing it. But at least that was nominated for much. Thank God for that. Yeah, because this film, I hate using the words "a film feels personal." Obviously, I don't. It's adapted screenplay, and you mentioned those internal monologues. Like the screenplay for this, I thought was the strength of this film. Ignore the cinematography, the performances, all that stuff is fine, but to me, it's the screenplay. You'll watch a 15-minute set piece, and it's a set piece of two people in a car, and you're just there, like, you know, how these conversations are coming. It both feels real and so sort of deep and impactful. And I haven't really felt that. And I'm glad you brought Power of the Dog, because I think these two are in the battle. Power of the Dog's an adapted screenplay as well.
Yeah,
and it's going to be really interesting how they fare, because I think there's a lot of similarities with these two cars. Two films. Sorry, it'd be very weird if there's a car and Power of the Dog. But the direction of this film I thought was absolutely fine. Now, he has been nominated for Best Director as well, which was, I think, one of the surprises. And when I say surprise, I think that's very much I'm just going to say this again, Denis Villeneuve. I've got no idea why on earth he was not nominated for either BAFTA or Oscar. I think we know why. They're saving it for part 2, but the logic is still not there that he should have been nominated for Dune. But with this, I thought the direction was absolutely fine. And again, it's the performances he gets out of the characters. They're all very nuanced. That I don't want to sit there and say they're all like 2 to 3 dimensional, but there's no big extravagant plot twist or anything like that. This is very much a film that's done via conversations. And I think to its credit, it just feels like I'm watching people talking for 3 hours, which isn't a bad thing when you really drill it down. But what it's about is, what are the meaning of those conversations? What is the impact of it? Now, I've got a quick comment I do want to bring up, because the rehearsal scenes felt so long. I get they were going for the punishment, the manuscript of his wife. That's where I found myself losing focus. Yeah, and the moment he popped back up as well, you just knew, okay, this is why it's took 2 years. They've had this issue, this conversation with one another, that this is the guy that she was cheating with. And I quite liked that concept, that not that she was cheating, because that sounds horrible, but if it was just an exploration of grief for the sake of grief, I think this film wouldn't achieve anything. But because it's an obstacle in his way, he had to find out the meaning. And when they do have their sort of farewell with one another, I like that it isn't this extravagant, over-the-top drama with one of it. It's just two people in conversation about life and their issues with it. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt the direction. It was just very unique. It's not something, I don't know, again, like Japanese cinema, I've not done an awful lot of since I was at uni, in absolute truth. And, you know, I know that I think Tokyo Story is the family drama they always talk about, which I remember seeing. And I just feel that with Japanese cinema, this is coming as a representation of that Japanese cinema, but also, you know, this is the first year the Oscar gets 10 films, not up to 10, between 6 and 10 or whatever. This is the first year it is a 10 nominated. And I'm all for films like this. Coda, which is, we'll have a big conversation with on Sunday. These things that I don't think would have had a chance in other years, but they're getting onto that ballot paper because it's about, you know, the definition of best film is so open to anything you can consider. And this is a conversation we've always had when people cried and moaned that Black Panther got nominated for best film. It was never about the quality of the CGI or all those mechanics coming together. To me, that was about the representation of sort of filmmakers' demographics and its cultural phenomenon. And you should be nominating films because of that as well. To me, that contributes to what does make a film great. It is its reflection upon society and what people have took from it. And that's a really important thing for me. And this is why with this new 10 film rule thing, that it's going to get people to watch films like this. I think Picture House tweeted saying they've shown this now in all their cinemas at least once for 5 months. And they said that's very rare for foreign films. And there's some exciting stuff that comes with it. But I think the direction of this film, I do think, again, the nomination, it's an interesting one, but I think because I'm still feeling quite fresh with this film, this might be one that grows on me as the days come by, because it took me weeks to really get on board with Power of the Dog. It took me a hell of a lot of time to really enjoy that film, and I'm sensing it with this, even just in conversation with you already.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, kind of, you've mentioned a few different scenes where kind of it draws you in a bit more kind of out of that alienation that I was talking about. And the one scene being the car scene. Oh my God, that scene was so intense and so well worded and was such a good payoff for the rest of the film. And I know that Dave mentioned kind of the rehearsal scenes and stuff like that, but I'm happy with the payoff after that. And if there is a twist in the film, that's kind of the only twist that's there, the conversation that they have in that car, what they talk about and stuff like that. And I think that's where the film finds its strength. And that is purely from the kind of the screenplay and stuff like that. But I think that there is some enjoyment to be found in this film. It's just you have to wait a very long time for it. And all the different kind of subject matters that it covers within the film itself. So it covers kind of grieving, which is the main kind of focus of the film, and kind of the different ways that people deal with grief and the different ways that people kind of put pressure on their own grief and stuff like that, kind of putting the grief on yourself or even blaming yourself for something that is completely out of your control. That's kind of the whole point of the film. You've also got affairs and how people deal with them, and kind of what I liked really about the way they handled that is that the main character is such kind of a, not gentle soul, but he's such kind of a, I don't really know how to word it. He's a character.
He's like an introvert.
Yeah, he's such an introverted character, but his way of dealing with it is that he doesn't want to admit to the affair, even though he's seen it take place, because that would ruin the good thing he's got going, and that would ruin the loving relationship. And the scene where he's speaking to, I do not have the character name on me, the driver of said car in Drive My Car. When he's speaking to her, the way that he's able to kind of talk about that situation and basically say that he couldn't bring himself to going home and dealing with that, it's so well done and it's so well acted in those scenes. And it is quite interesting because there aren't too many like settings in this film. You have the theatre production place, you have the car, you have the home. That's kind of really it. There's one or two other places that gets kind of going to, like the hotel and stuff like that, but it's such a minimalist film, and the way that it's delivered and stuff like that over kind of the entire film, it's so kind of once again subtly done that it does kind of come together as this kind of like quiet kind of. I can't even compare it to another English film or English language film that I can think of. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head is something like Manchester by the Sea, which was a very kind of quiet and very kind of slow build, slow burning film that deals with a similar subject matter.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I really loved with this is the whole concept of the play. So I'm not familiar with the source material. I'm just going to say it straight away. But the idea that this play within the film was being committed in a multilingual, that everybody's different languages, they might not understand the other language, some might. But what fascinated me was the meaning of that in the film, because all of those scenes are expressed with emotion via vocals, how the characters talk to one another, how their tones are. That's the key to them to know when they're going to come in. And obviously, I'm obviously not an actor, so obviously I know that with stage theatre, that's even harder to do than the on-screen stuff. And what I love is not that I know the meaning of it per se, but the concept of that versus the director of that play is the quiet one who's spoken, who is so well respected and highly regarded by that cast. And the fact that even he himself knows that, you know, he assumes this character had the affair with his wife, and he gives him the role that he shouldn't have. He should have a much better role, but he gives him the role of the uncle, and obviously it comes full circle in that he has to then go back in and play that role again because he knows the words, he speaks the language, and there's a lot of sort of thematics woven into that whole meaning of all of those scenes, and I did find it very interesting. What I even loved is even a character like that, I think he was called Koji, who obviously, you know, he then gets arrested sort of fourth day for the film for the punch stuff. Even that stuff has a setup, and you don't need to see him battle someone. We can assume he's gone up those stairs, he's done something, he's ran back down. But when it's like, oh yeah, he actually killed a guy, and it's not this big moment. It just then becomes you either cancel the play or you're in it yourself. It's not been there as a justice for the wife or anything that he's in prison. This is literally this is just a troubled actor that has ended up in this situation. It's things like that I found really fascinating with this. And I think I'd have struggled in some circumstances, but having the whole play concept, I think, did really help. And I'm not quite sure why. Like, some of my favorite moments were within that. And that's where I feel like the film came into its own. It wasn't just this explanation of grief. There was something else at play. He was trying to unite other languages. And maybe that's something that should be more relevant outside of film in modern day, all the sort of chaos going on. But I just felt like that then leaches back to that screenplay stuff, that the script is so tight. It just feels real. It feels like they're in rehearsals. And that's my biggest takeaway from it. I think this film has such an incredible screenplay. The director has been able to sort of not direct off, that's such a boring statement, but the cast are clearly thriving off. And if that screenplay doesn't work, I don't actually think the film does. I think it comes down to those delivery of those lines. It's the moments, it's how they're written, it's how long you spend with certain characters at those certain moments that are their arcs fulfilled by the time you get to all of their final places. I think so.
Yeah. So what's it up against for its screenplay? What is it actually up against?
So, best adapted screenplay for this year is Drive My Car, Power of the Dog, Dune, and there are two more which I'm frantically trying to remember off the top of my head.
Coda's one of them, and The Lost Daughter.
I mean, I think 4 out of those 5 are very good picks. That's
going to be very difficult.
Yeah, and I think it's out of Drive My Car and Power of the Dog, if I'm being absolutely. But we'll talk about Coda in a bit with the best film stuff.
Yeah.
Screenplay, it is out of Power of the Dog and Drive My Car. Power of the Dog, I feel on paper is going to get it because it still is a book. They'll be more familiar with that source material. Again, Dune, they'll wait till part 2 comes out. And also, is this unfair to say how it's only half of the book? And that's why I'm always a bit weird with book adaptations into the Oscar for screenplay, because part 2 will then also get a best adapted screenplay nomination. Obviously, it's not the film's fault at all. I didn't want to rush a 3-hour film trying to condense 600 pages, but yeah, I think it's out of this and Power of the Dog. I do think Power of the Dog will take it, but I think this could take it, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so we've already talked about one of the others nominated for Best International Feature with Worst Person in the World. We also talked about Flea in our Oscar animated rundown, which you guys should go and watch our last video, which is really interesting, talking through the animated features put up for the Oscars. I'm trying to think if there's any others that spring out to mind, but there aren't any. Those seem to be the big 3 that a lot of people are talking about this year with the international feature. I think it's one of those which is really difficult to say because it's been nominated for Best Picture, which makes you think that it's kind of got it sealed in and it's nailed on. But at the same time,
it's like, how can you be nominated for Best Picture and not win your Best International Feature?
Well, from a football perspective, you've got the FIFA awards where people were nominated as the best keeper of the year and didn't even make the team of the year.
Team of the year.
So it could end up like that kind of situation, possibly.
Yeah, I think if it didn't win it, I hate saying the words, I wouldn't be surprised, but I've not seen. I think Parallel Mothers is one of the ones in there. I've not seen Parallel Mothers yet, and I forgot what the 5th one is. But
yeah,
I'd be very, very shocked. I don't think people will be put off. I think Parasite was the year. We knew Parasite was winning everything, but when it we knew it would take Best Film, and it's like, oh, could it not win Best International because we all think it would get Best Film? And I think people have had that discussion line for, if a film's nominated for Best Film, should it be allowed to be in the international film? Do you think it's a bit unfair in international films because it's still the best of the lot? So I'd be. The biggest shock of the night would be this not winning Best International Film.
Yeah.
What's going to be interesting is Best Director, because we've got 5 picks here. We've got Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza.
Yeah.
The key thing here is he hasn't won his Oscar for directing it.
No, he hasn't.
So Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Jane Campion, The Heavyweight with Power of the Dog.
Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg,
West Side Story.
I don't think this is getting anything in this category. Honestly, out of all of these, it's the weakest directing out of all of them. And that's no kind of disrespect to this film's direction at all. But this year is so stacked in the directing category. Like, that's not even without adding in Denis Villeneuve for Dune. Like, honestly, this year is so stacked in that directing category that there's no way this is winning it. And if it does win it, then it's going to win Best Picture. That's the only way of saying it. It'll be a massive shock on the night, but that's the only way that this kind of wins Best Director if they really do want to go onto that kind of side of things and stuff like that.
I can't see Jane Campion not winning.
I can see Jane Campion not winning. I can see Spielberg nabbing that. I can. Do you know what?
It's free marketing for a serious site next week, though.
Yeah, we did our predictions a while ago, and honestly, this year,
didn't I?
This year is the absolute wild west of picks because it could go in any direction, and no one has any idea which way it's going to go. And because of that, it's exciting for once, believe it or not. I know they're kind of killing the excitement by not announcing 8 of the films during the actual broadcast, but for the actual kind of categories and stuff like that, it's an absolute free-for-all. Anyone could absolutely take any of the categories at any time, and because of that, it's like, where do you go for that? But I doubt this is going to get anything from the Best Director category. Now,
really quickly, let's talk Best Film. Now, we're going to save across the live stream on Sundays, we always do. We're going to plug that live stream once more. Always live, normally about 5 minutes before the ceremony starts. More details on socials. Now, obviously, we've got a couple of big things for Sunday. We don't know if those awards are going to be made public info, the ones that have won the 8, or if they'll be announced on the broadcast. We'll figure all that stuff out. But on the night, we tend to go through everything. We'll speak about each film because I know that you weren't on most reviews for the 10 anyway. So we'll be able to get your thoughts on a lot of those throughout the evening and some of the other awards nominated for other things, which is going to be really fun. But really quickly, if me and you are doing the 10, right now, Monday 21st of March, 6 days before, like the animated film, what do you think will win and what should win? Now, for me, what should win Best Film that isn't going to win Best Film is Dune, because it's going to wait for part 2. And it's so boring because it's like Lord of the Rings. The reason why I just feel that those Lord of the Rings awards are so irrelevant is because it was like, pat on the back, well done. Fellowship's the best of the trilogy by a million miles on Earth. There's a pat on the back. You can get them all in 2 years' time. I know they won a couple across those years still, but it's really frustrating that they kind of dismiss a part 1 out of part 2 winning stuff. That tangent over. What will win is probably my biggest question, because Power of the Dog is the heavyweight. It's been like this for quite a while now. Belfast peaked early. Power of the Dog has been slamming it everywhere. But there is momentum with Coda. There is an extreme momentum with Coda that is
beautiful. There's a huge momentum with Coda.
And now it's enraging reviewers online, which is really odd. I've never really seen this at an Oscar film. And that strikes to me that people are worried that Coda will win. I would love Coda to win, but I feel it's too much of an underdog story for Coda to win right now. The indie film sold to Apple at Sundance versus the Netflix auteur-directed film about westerns of Benedict Cumberbatch and all that stuff. So I still think Power of the Dog is going to win, but on Sunday, I could have completely different thoughts about what I think is going to take it.
So either way, you're saying that it's going to be a streaming film that wins it?
Yeah. And it'll be the very first one. Now, here's the thing about Apple. Obviously, Apple paid, $25 million for Coda, the most expensive Sundance purchase in history. I'm pretty sure they do that every 2 years. That one becomes the most expensive, but 25 mil. And Apple, they didn't really market it when it went up in August. There was nothing. And then Oscar season's come, and it was it creeped into Best Film, and it had this uproar. And obviously, Troy Kotz is going to clearly win Best Supporting Actor now, which is amazing. And it's just, the song at the end, I was getting a bit emotional during the BAFTA, trying not to cry watching it all. And it's this film just has done something where, and I don't know why it's enraging so many people. It's a harmless film. I hate to say it's a feel-good film because it's so much more than that. But in terms of breaking down barriers, what Coda can do, I feel there's this surge of momentum. And if that wins, I just feel like it would honestly be one of the... Forget La La Land, because I found La La Land fun and all that stuff, right? And I know the content wasn't... A lot of people wanted that to win. Yeah. There would be... Coda, to me, feels like the ultimate underdog story at the Oscars. Not a shock if it didn't win. It's the underdog has come through. And that's kind of how I feel with it. Could the next 6 days have this surge of momentum? I think they're still voting. I think they get a week or 10-day window. Yeah. And this is what's interesting, that it's still winning stuff during these 10 days.
So for me with Coda, it's one of those where the Oscars have been absolutely screaming for various different kinds of representation to be more heavily represented over the years. And they brought in new rules over it, and they've kind of had more and more films of various different kind of representations being kind of pushed forwards for a lot of awards. We had Parasite, the first ever foreign language film, winning a few years ago. We had Black Panther, which we've already spoken about, which absolutely all deserve their place. Last year, we had Sound of Metal, which is a film about people dealing with kind of being deaf and about learning sign language and stuff like that. This year, we have another film about sign language. And I'll be honest, before kind of the last few years, sign language representation in cinema has been dreadful. It's not been there. There's been the odd occasional film where they have a deaf person, but normally they'll make the deaf person try and talk, which I know that people do it and stuff like that, but if you're going to have a deaf person, you really do have to kind of show that they can speak that language, because of course they can. Don't try and force them to kind of like, speak because you need someone to actually say the words in the film. People will understand if the person is doing the sign language and stuff like that. That representation is needed there. And I'm so glad that Coda was able to do that. What I think should win, personally for me, Coda. I genuinely adore Coda. It was my favorite film from watching all of them. And I think that it deserves that purely out of the representation and also the fact that it is a damn good film. It is so well put together. The characters are amazing. The direction's good. And once again, like you said, the ending is fantastic. What do I think's going to win? It's a coin flip. I think it was previously a coin flip between, is it going to be like Power of the Dog, or is it going to be West Side Story, or is it going to be Belfast? And there was those three that were all jostling for positions. But now it's going to be a coin flip between Power of the Dog and Coda. And honestly, I have no idea. Like, Power of the Dog's had the momentum all the way throughout, so I feel like that's probably going to win. But Coda has had the recent momentum, and this is exactly what happened with Parasite. Like, exactly what happened with
Parasite.
Was
sweeping, though. But that was like, no one could believe it. This is like that team in the championship that they will do nothing till like March. They'll win 10 in a row and then go through the playoffs in May.
Yeah.
and that's how I feel like with this film. Is like, it's had the perfect moment to get into. Belfast, I think, peaked early. Belfast was like, here's the charming Irish film about Belfast during, about a little kid, which is charming. I love that film. I love Belfast. And I feel like that sort of, it came out in November in America, man. How ridiculous is that? And it came out January here. And I think that sort of had its peak with the nomination. It won a couple of awards at the end of December, but Coda started hitting the awards in like January, February, which is the most important time to win awards. And Paradox has been the heavyweight. It just chugs along consistently throughout. And it's going to be really interesting because obviously the big thing with the Oscars is that how they do the voting is that it's obviously your position 1 essentially gets 10 points and position 10 gets 1. So you can have a film that comes third and everyone's bad, that'll probably win. But
it's whatever has the best average.
Exactly. And can a human being really watch Coda and be like, I hate this, I'm putting this to the bottom of my list? Like, no. Power of the Dog, I mean, excluding Sam Elliott, the idiot for his stupid comments, excluding him. Maybe there's some Oscar voters like him that think that cowboys are the way they want it to be, even though they never lived there. And we're in that timepiece. Different conversation. We'll bring it up on Sunday. I just want to bring up a couple of comments from Dave.
Yes.
I love Coda. We've got Martin in the chat. Thank you very much. Nothing hit me at the scene when she sings with a hand on the throat, broke me with Coda as well. I know it's turning to a Coda review. That's Coda's momentum right now. It is sweeping the Oscars and all the conversation in regards to the Oscars. Heading back into Drive My Car, though, I'm going to really slightly give my final thoughts. Again, it feels very early, although the film's been out 5 months. I watched it last night and it settled with me, and I've had a lot of thinking about it today. And it might be a film that grows on me as time goes by, or I think about it as I'm a little bit older. I think there is something about it that works that I didn't think would work. And there's also something about it where I couldn't fully find myself invested in it, which is a struggle. And I'm still not quite sure whether that's the characters or the direction. So, yeah, I see its place in these. And I don't think there's a single film that's been in that top 10. Maybe don't look up, like, how did that get there? But at the same time, I can't give you a film that has been robbed of not being there. I'm sure there has if I really drilled it down and had a look. But I feel that the 10 is about... I don't think there's any gaping holes from this 10.
I'm trying to think of what was snubbed.
If you wanted an obligatory blockbuster to make up the 10, you'd have put No Time to Die in there. But they didn't. But if they wanted to have a blockbuster, it would have been that. That is the Oscar blockbuster. Obviously, June, I guess, is a blockbuster, if I'm being honest. But
yeah.
No Way Home was never getting in. This silly crusade online had to stop. That was never, ever going to get in. And it's been exposed badly now. The online copies are out. How bad that CGI really is. But yeah,
I guess Tick Tick Boom could have deserved to be in there.
Yeah, that's got the Garfield momentum. Yeah, Tick Tick Boom. No, ignore me. Yeah, Tick Tick Boom. Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah.
Don't look up. Netflix pushed the money on the wrong film.
You've also got films like I know a lot of people are talking about Pig with Nicolas Cage. Lost Daughter's been nominated for a few things. I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on that. I'm sure there's a small fan base online that wants Zack Snyder's Justice League to be in there as well. So, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just like to come in. No, like I said, it's going to be an interesting Sunday. I think last year was a bit of a, we knew what was happening, and obviously it was the COVID Oscars still. So if I'm wrapping up, sorry, I've given my final thoughts. Have you given your final thoughts, Drama Car?
No, I will though. It's an odd one because, like you said, it deserves to be there, but it's kind of towards the lower end for me. I didn't enjoy it as much as I feel like I could have, and there was it just ended up being one of those kind of like a chore, like you said earlier, like something that you had to watch to fulfill the kind of thing. And as much as I did enjoy some parts of the film and stuff like that, it's not a film I'm going to go back to. It's just not. It's not a film that really entertained me in that way. I may go back to certain scenes, but not to the entire film. And I don't know if that's because I don't have the attention span for a 3-hour-long film, which is just a man grieving over his wife who cheated on him. But I feel like there could have been more with this film. And I don't know if shaving off parts of this film would have helped that or not, because they go for the slow burn and it is meant to be kind of one of those kind of long, kind of you have to experience every single moment kind of points of that. But, you know, that's how it ended up in the end.
No, absolutely, and that's it. It's going to be. It's one of those where it's got its fans and stuff, and I think everyone's reacted differently. So we had Dave's comments as well about it as well. It's a very different film, and I'm glad that it does get the limelight from an nomination. A lot of people are checking it out. I think its views were up in America. A lot of people giving attention, which again is the beauty of having these 10 films. You can give films a chance that they wouldn't normally have. And I do hope that's something to stick to in the future. But that's going to wrap it up for our Drive My Car. I'd say this is the last Oscar video before the stream on Sunday. I've just been checking the time. So obviously there's been, America's already had its times changed. I think this weekend, the UK is next Sunday. We want to obviously let you know it's going to be this Sunday and Monday. If you're watching America, if it's Sunday, watching UK, it's Monday, 1 a.m. UK time. Monday morning is when the 3-hour ceremony starts. We'll be live a couple of minutes before, as we always are. Unfortunately, I don't know what time that will be in Austria. I don't know when your hours are going to go backwards.
They change at the same time, but because, isn't it 12 o'clock becomes 1 a.m.?
I think one becomes... I don't know which way around it's going. I'm not going to lie.
It's going to be confusing no matter what way it comes around. Hopefully I get there in time. You may have to send me a message beforehand to get me there, but it's only going to be 1 hour extra if there are any viewers in Europe as well.
That's just everyone, please do join us on Sunday. So we love doing these videos. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've had how many classic reactions we've had? Obviously, the La La Land drama was a massive one.
Jeez,
Will this be the year I get to see Hans Zimmer win an Oscar? The answer is it's not being fucking televised. But either way, he's on tour. He's on stage in Germany, so he won't be there anyway, which is quite sad at the same time. But he's on tour, which is much better. So yes, do join us. And as we said, comment your thoughts on Drama. Can watch this down the line? Maybe watch this in the future. And this film has won on Sunday, and we were like idiots for saying it's got no chance. That'll be on us. So do check this out. Do hit subscribe, and a lot more stuff on the way. Mentioned Spielberg a couple of times tonight. Steven Spielberg retrospective begins next Tuesday, the 29th of March. There is a video going up tomorrow, like a 10-minute introductory one, as we do for each of the big retrospectives on the channel. So do check that out. It's got a little bit of details, what we're going to be covering, why we're covering it, the schedules, all that kind of stuff. So you can check that out. That'll be up on the channel probably tomorrow lunchtime. That's pre-recorded. But next Tuesday, it begins with Duel. Oscar season marks an end. Spielberg retrospective begins, and obviously, it doesn't just end there. We've got a lot of new releases coming up on the way: TV shows, films, reviews, discussions, tier lists, and much more. We'll be able to share them all with you down the line. As I said, at the end of Oscar season is like chapter 1 of the year done. That's how I've always seen. That's like the big. You get sort of Oscar season, kick it away, get it done with. Then you get the blockbuster season to take you through to the end of the year. And then it sort of repeats itself when we get to the film festival. So it's like phase 1 almost done. So yes, that begins next week. And if you want to find out what videos are coming up, sometimes we get screeners. We announce them as and when we're allowed to. Sometimes we can't tell you what this film's going to be. but we'll always put them on social media. So don't just subscribe and hit the notification button. Get us on our social medias, Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. We put all our times and videos up on there that we're going to be announcing. Any last minute change. As I said, this Drive My Car review got delayed about 3 times. Not as long as the film felt like, in truth. But, that stuff does happen. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. So we've got Martin saying he's counting down the days to the Kenobi live streams. May the 25th be with you. 3 weeks after what it could and should have been. But nonetheless, it still becomes May the 25th. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening this year. I haven't even really spoke about Disney, but bloody hell. Yeah. So thank you all for watching, and join us on the next one. Take care.